It's Friday, July 2nd, and this is now on HNN.
We've lost an engine.
Developing news at noon, a Boeing 737 cargo plane crashes into waters off West Oahu.
So there's a lot of different debris in the water.
Right now, the NTSB is sending a team to investigate.
And thankfully, they were able to ditch successfully.
Special live team coverage is just ahead on This Is Now. Good afternoon. Thanks for watching This Is Now. You got Jonathan and Ashley here coming to you from the HNN Digital Center. Let's get right to today's top stories.
The Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board are investigating after a Boeing 737-200 cargo plane crashed in waters off West Oahu. There were 2 pilots on board. Our Lynn Kawano is live with the latest. Lynn.
Ashley, one pilot is in critical condition in the intensive care unit at the hospital. Another is in serious condition. He was brought here by rescuers near the reef runway. Now, it started with a chopper. The Coast Guard MH-65 chopper located the debris field about 2:30 this morning and spotted the 2 pilots in the water. Multiple agencies jumped in to assist with rescue efforts, including the Coast Guard, Honolulu Fire Department, state firefighters, emergency medical services, and the Department of Transportation. The Coast Guard airlifted the pilot to the Queens Medical Center. He is 58 years old. He remains in critical condition right now. A rescue boat brought the other pilot to shore, where EMS treated the 50-year-old and transported him to the hospital in serious condition. He had a head injury and multiple lacerations. Today, we talked to some of the Coast Guard's rescue team.
We first saw a man waving his hand from the tail of the airplane. So you could see that the tail was fully exposed and the man was standing on the tail. Next we saw another man floating on a bed of cargo. They both seemed alert. And so we decided to go check out, make a rescue on the man in the cargo bed because that was the priority right then and there. However, when we were just about to deploy the swimmer for that rescue, I look up and I tell Alex, "Hey, I don't see the tail anymore. The tail's sinking." I actually remember seeing it start to submerge. And at that point, Alex looks up and what did you see?
Yeah, so basically at that point, I was focused on our survivor down and to the right, sitting on the cargo bed.
Right.
And Gleb had mentioned that he didn't see the tail anymore, and so I looked up, and the man that was originally waving on that tail was now vigorously splashing in the water. And we saw that there was a little bit of struggle for him to stay afloat. That oil sheen turned out to be jet fuel, so there's a lot of different debris in the water, both on the surface and physically visible, as well as unseen. So we realized that this man was now going to be struggling to fight, and while the individual was sitting on the cargo bed afloat, we decided to effect a rescue on the individual now in the water. So we put our rescue swimmer down to effect an immediate rescue in order to get him out of the water as soon as we could in the cabin and give him the medical care that he needed.
And that was members of the Coast Guard speaking there. Now, Lynn, what else can you tell us about the rescue?
Ashley, this was a massive rescue effort. The Coast Guard also, in addition to their chopper, they had a small boat as well as a C-130. And also airport firefighters out here stationed at the Daniel K. Inouye Airport. They launched their boat as well. You know, I just spoke with the chief minutes ago, and he says they prepare for this all year round. They rarely have to use that training, but today was one of those days. EMS was also here ready to treat those patients, as well as Honolulu firefighters. So this was a massive and joint operation. Everybody responded very quickly.
Thank you very much, Lynn, for that report. We'll check back in with you on later editions of HNN.
Now, we have the audio of the exchange between the pilots and the air traffic control tower. It may be a little hard to hear, but we're going to play some of that for you right now.
Lost number 1, an engine, and we're coming straight to the airport. We're going to need the fire department assistance. We're going to lose the other engine too. It's running very hot. And speed is, we're pretty low on the speed. Doesn't look look good out here. You might want to let the fluid gun know as well. And we don't have any hazmat. And fuel is about 2 hours of fuel.
And Rose Express 810, how many people are on board?
2 of us.
Rose Express 810, roger. Do you have the airport in sight? Rose Express 810, do you have the airport in sight?
Negative.
And Rose Express 810, low altitude alert. Are you able to climb at all?
No, negative.
Rose Express 810, roger. Proceed direct to the airport and you are cleared to land any runway.
We need a heading.
Rose Express 810, heading 060.
Billy V has been covering this story since early this morning. He continues our team coverage.
The State Department of Transportation says this incident happened at about 1:45 this morning, about 2 miles off of Kalaeloa Airport. Officials say Transair Flight 810, a Boeing 737 cargo aircraft, departed from the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport and was headed to Kahului, Maui. That's when the two pilots reported engine trouble and were attempting to return to Honolulu when they were forced to make an emergency landing in the water. That's according to the FAA. The DOT says the U.S. Coast Guard airlifted one of the pilots to the Queens Medical Center. A rescue boat brought the other pilot to shore, where emergency medical services treated the 50-year-old and transported him to the hospital. DOT spokesman Jai Cunningham says there weren't any interruptions to air traffic in the area.
No service has been disrupted whatsoever. So any passenger flight, other cargo flights that are happening are all scheduled to go as planned today. So not just here at Daniel K. Inouye International Airport, but also Kalaeloa. That airport is up and running, and the neighbor island. So it's business as usual at the Department of Transportation when it comes to our airports division.
An obvious question is, what were the weather conditions when this incident happened? Our own Guy Hoggy has more details on that.
The winds weren't that strong, so there was an ocean chop for sure. But also, because they were so far offshore, anywhere between 2 and 4 miles, they were outside of the surf, of the breaking surf, the breaking waves. So that definitely helped them, that the ocean was definitely calmer. If they were to be closer towards shore in shallower water, then they would have to deal with that south swell and the breaking waves, making it even rougher for the rescue. And also, it gets a little choppier because the water's a little shallower.
Sunrise business reporter Howard Dykes says it's not unusual for cargo flights to be in the air during the early morning hours.
Great deal of air cargo shipments, including almost all inter-island air cargo shipments, are done on the graveyard shift because there are few passenger traffic incidents. We don't have a lot of flights from midnight on, so the cargo flights are free to occupy the runways, to leave early or late depending on what's being loaded and where it has to go. There's a lot more flexibility because of that. So it's not unusual that there would be an air cargo flight in the middle of the night. It's also not unusual that there would be a pilot and a co-pilot only aboard, and it is not unusual that it would be, as in this case, a 737.
A 7-person team from the FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board will now be investigating the crash. Aviation expert Peter Foreman gave us this insight.
Well, I think it's probably too much of a coincidence for two engines to fail so close to each other. So there's got to be some reason for that happening, and whether it's bird ingestion or fuel contamination or something else. Those are the kind of things that they're going to be looking at right off the bat.
I'm Billy V, Hawaii News Now.
Boeing issued a statement about the crash saying, quote, "We are aware of the reports out of Honolulu, Hawaii, and are closely monitoring the situation. We are in contact with the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board and are working to gather more information." The Boeing 737 plane that crashed was built in 1975. That plane was operated by Transair, which manages an all-cargo fleet in the islands. The company's website says it's one of the largest air cargo providers in the state. Transair has been operating since 1982, and its fleet has 5 Boeing 737s and 5 Bombardier SD360-300s. The airline says it flies daily to Kauai, Maui, Kona, and Hilo, with extended service to Lanai and Molokai.
Joining us now is Captain Laura Einsettler. She is an aviation expert and a pilot. Captain, can you tell us what your takeaways are from what you've seen unfold here this morning in Honolulu?
Yes, it's absolutely unusual to have a situation where you have both engines that are being affected. So In this situation, the pilots were obviously trying to make it back to Honolulu safely and getting the aircraft back and the cargo, but they just didn't have a chance to make it back to the airport. And thankfully, they were able to ditch successfully in the ocean, escape out of the aircraft, and hats off to the rescuers for rescuing them out of the water.
What's going on as a pilot when you get those alerts in the cockpit? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What's the situation?
Well, in the case of engines and like several of the other different systems that we have, you have warning systems that alert you initially. They had just taken off out of Honolulu and were only 15 miles offshore. So there just wasn't a whole lot of time anyway to handle the situation. As pilots were running the checklist, a lot of times it's division of duty in the cockpit. So one pilot's doing some of the work and actions, the other pilot's doing the coordination with air traffic control. And in this case, they just needed to have more time and ability with the aircraft, but unfortunately they had to ditch.
This plane was from the mid-70s. What can you tell me about the plane, and is the age unusual?
Well, the 737s are very solid aircraft. They're very well built. They last a very long time. This is a little bit of an older aircraft. It's a 200 model, is my understanding. And so that is some of the things that the investigators will be looking at. If there's any sort of maintenance history there, especially with the engines, if there's any fuel situation or things like that, that the pilots were trying to handle and make it back.
You said that this is highly unusual for a double engine failure. Why do you say that? How often, do you have any expertise of other incidents like this, or what can you say about that?
Yes, it's very unusual to have a situation where you have one engine fail and then the other one is also damaged in this case. And it's very busy in the cockpit for the pilots. That's a very unusual situation. We are trained for all things, and that's how we conduct, how we operate anyway, being prepared as best as possible. And in this situation, airspeed and altitude was critical to maintain in order to get back to the Honolulu airport. But unfortunately, you had to use their last option, which was ditching.
With these big aircrafts, how unusual is a water landing and the survivability of a water landing?
Well, and fortunately in this case, too, they're very familiar with the island flying and they're familiar with the ocean waves and currents. And so the fact that they have already some of this knowledge on their flying skills and experience there at the islands, that really helped them to be able to handle this catastrophic emergency as well as they had.
How much time do you really have to get out when you're in a water landing?
It's very critical to get out as soon as you possibly can. And especially they were unpressurized, which helps as you're descending down, then the cabin becomes unpressurized, which then at that point, you can open up the cockpit windows and escape out as long as the aircraft is intact.
All right, Captain Laura, thank you so much for your expertise. I appreciate it.
Howard Dykes spent the morning talking to Coast Guard rescue crews. Here are more details from those interviews.
Yeah, this is an opportunity for me to make it more clear how many people are involved in the team, because these are pilots, but not of helicopters. We have Commander James Willingham with us and Lieutenant Jack Emmons, and you fly C-130s.
That is correct, yes. We both fly the C-130H, which you can see behind us back on the ramp.
What does this plane do in a rescue like this?
So we're mostly there for sort of on-scene coordination. We relay a lot of communications between our sector Honolulu. We're in communications with ATC as well as the 65 and then surface assets like the small boat. So we do a lot of talking and just try to make sure that everything can run smoothly.
You're higher up, and I would assume that you would have the big picture. Is there any imaging that you can provide to the rest of the team?
Yes, so we have a FLIR ball and we have several different cameras which allow us to see a little bit farther and see better at night. So that aids us in the search portion, and it can also aid us in the rescue portion as well.
Most people have seen night vision goggles. Is it something akin to that?
It's very similar, yeah. It's like a hot-cold type of camera, so you can see heat a little bit better than cold.
And I would imagine in a case like this, that would also allow you to see if there's a fuel slip.
It definitely helped. Yeah, the camera was able to pick that up very nicely, whereas we had our night vision goggles on as well, and it was a little more difficult for us to see up front. So we definitely relied on the camera a little bit for that.
Everybody's been telling me about the training that the Coast Guard relies very heavily on and puts a lot of stock in, and I was curious if there was anything during this rescue where you thought to yourself, oh, that never came up before.
Well, I would say due to the close vicinity of the search, literally right off the runway, that's kind of rare. So in order to go out and search, you go through quite a few number of procedures and checklists, and we had to expedite that fairly quickly just to get out there and be all set up to execute the search.
And this idea of having to think and move quickly occurs when you're awakened in the middle of the night.
Certainly, but that's sort of what we got used to here.
You know, that's the attitude that I've heard expressed by everybody who was involved in the team, and all of you also seemed very glad to finally be able to put that training to work and very likely save a life or two.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's always a sad scenario when there is some sort of emergency, but in a case like this where 2 people were rescued and saved, that's the bright side, and that's us using the opportunity to use our training to do what we were trained to do.
You know, I don't want to sound like a recruitment officer, but this is certainly a reminder that there are certain jobs that are worth more than others, and you must feel very good to be in the Coast Guard this morning.
Best job in the world, best unit in the Coast Guard.
Yeah, I've heard that from your ladies and gentlemen who like very much being deployed here.
Yes. Great station, exactly. Great station, great service.
All right. Thank you very much for your help and for your service and for these extra details on what goes into doing an incredible rescue such as this.
Thank you, Howard, for that report. Stay with Hawaii News Now for continuing coverage of this downed aircraft incident. We'll continue to follow it all day long on air and on your HNN digital platforms. Now let's get to those latest numbers being reported by the State Department of Health.
The state is reporting 79 new infections today and no new fatalities. The breakdown includes 6 cases on the Big Island, 9 on Kauai, 4 on Maui, 43 on Oahu, and 6 people were diagnosed out of state. 11 of those cases are probable.
All right, let's talk about what's going on in Surfside, Florida today. You know, the mayor just released this information. 2 more bodies have been pulled from that collapsed condominium. Let's turn you over to Chris Pallone with the very latest developments.
Search day 9 in Surfside, Florida. Since Thursday, rescue crews have recovered the bodies of 2 more collapse victims. One, the 7-year-old daughter of a City of Miami firefighter.
It's very difficult. And last night was even more, when we're removing a fellow firefighter's daughter.
The search has been back on since Thursday evening after concerns about the stability of the debris pile and the parts of Champlain Tower South still standing led to a pause of about 15 hours. Officials are considering demolishing the remaining building to make recovery efforts safer, but that complicated job won't be completed soon.
A demolition cannot be done overnight. In fact, it takes weeks.
Rescuers have had to deal with fire, lightning, extreme heat, and rain in the days since the collapse.
It's just so challenging. So many different obstacles, one after the other.
Now a new potential obstacle looming out at sea, Hurricane Elsa. Searchers say any pause for weather will be as short as possible.
As soon as the green light is given that every piece of equipment can come back and rescuers can be allowed back on the pile, even without the rest of the equipment being here, we will be back to work.
As the days pass, the shock has turned to grief for so many in this small beach community.
My heart breaks every time I look in that direction because I knew a lot of people there.
For families hoping for news about their loved ones, the agonizing wait continues. Chris Pallone, NBC News.
All right, we want to switch gears right now and talk about the weather. A lot of people have holiday plans in the works. Here's Guy Hoggy with an update on that.
How's it on this Friday? We've got more beautiful trade wind weather. That upper level disturbance near Kauai will not influence our weather, although it might send some high level clouds to Kauai. It's not going to produce any rain. In fact, it's relatively dry this morning. But over the next several days, we'll likely see some early morning and overnight showers for those windward neighborhoods. We still are expecting lots and lots of sunshine for leeward sides, high temperatures approaching 90. And what we see today won't change very much over the next several days, except for strengthening trade winds. And that's why small craft advisory is posted for the waters around Maui and the Big Island. And that south shore swell is on the decline. Still going to be fun size, 3 to 5 feet. A little boost is expected into the north shore today, and also expected in today Box jellyfish likely swimming into the South Shores over the next couple of days. And that could hamper that new swell that's coming in for the holiday weekend. A big swell coming in between Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So watch for that. Otherwise, the weather's going to be very, very nice. Those trade winds will run at bouncy levels, 15 to 20 today. A little stronger for Saturday and Sunday. But the overall weather pattern's not going to change. Lots of sunshine, very little rain, just a few passing showers. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
Thank you so much, Guy. And speaking of the weekend, travel experts say this coming holiday weekend could be one of the busiest and most costly, with gas and hotel prices on the rise. But none of that seems to matter to the millions of Americans who are ready to finally get out and get away. Here's Tom Costello with the latest.
Good day. This may feel more like a Thanksgiving travel season than the 4th of July weekend, because 48 million of us are traveling over the next few days. 91% are going by road. So that's about 44 million people hitting the roads, and the busiest times are going to be Friday afternoon, Friday evening, as well as on the comeback on Monday. If you are traveling, you know you got to expect to pay more at the gas pump. $3.12 is now the national average for a gallon of gas. That's the average. We see it higher in many places, but that's up about $1 or so from a year ago. You're also going to pay more for hotels and rental cars. You may not be paying quite as much for the airline ticket as you did a year ago, but no middle seats, no elbow room. It's going to be another situation of packed planes and packed airports. And don't forget, you do have to have that mask. That's a federal requirement, because kids under the age of 12 are not vaccinated. They're trying to protect that age group as well as anybody who's not vaccinated. As we go through the next few days, keeping in mind also that this is typically one of the most dangerous periods of the year on the nation's roads. We average 450 fatal accidents every single 4th of July weekend. 40% of those involve alcohol. It's tempting, if you go out for the backyard burger and a beer at the neighbor's house or wherever you're going, just keep in mind that alcohol is a contributing factor to so many of these crashes every year. Good idea to call an Uber or have a friend drive. It's going to be busy, but hopefully a beautiful 4th of July wherever you are. I'm Tom Costello, NBC News in Bethesda, Maryland.
And back here at home, just a reminder, there is no Independence Day fireworks show at Ala Moana Regional Park again this year because of the pandemic. So the city says there will be no overnight stays or permits for Sunday, July 4th and Monday, July 5th. That means park facilities will be on a first-come, first-served basis during regular open hours, which are 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily.
All right, let's recap our top story of the day.
So the recap of our top story, the FAA and the NTSB are investigating after a Transair Boeing 737-200 cargo plane crashed 2 miles off West Oahu early this morning, injuring both pilots on board. Authorities say the plane had just departed from Honolulu and was heading to Kahului when both engines on the plane apparently failed. Coast Guard crews received the first call at around 1:40 a.m. and they spotted the debris field and the pilots at around 2:30. One of the pilots, a 58-year-old man, was airlifted to Queens Medical Center in critical condition. The other, a 50-year-old, was brought to shore by a rescue boat and was taken to the hospital in serious condition.
And again, we're gathering all sorts of new expert opinion and insight and new details and video from this still developing story. You're going to want to stay with HNN for those latest developments on air and online. Just head to your HNN digital platforms for video extras and updates all afternoon long. Don't forget, we're podcasting as well here at HNN. Just search Hawaii News Now wherever you get your podcasts from. You guys have a great holiday weekend. Keep informed all weekend long with all the updates from HNN. Just keep checking those HNN digital platforms. Have a good one. Bye-bye.